Live.
Ladies and gentlemen of the media, very good afternoon and welcome to this press conference, this virtual press conference for that matter, being hosted by the Honorable Sonia Parag, the Minister of Public Service. Minister Parag will first make some opening comments, after which she will take questions based on her comments. And as usual, once time permits, we may take some questions outside of those opening comments. So, Minister, thank you for joining us and go straight ahead.
Good afternoon, members of the media, and welcome. This afternoon, I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what the Ministry of Public Service status is. So the Department of Public Service, as it is now, comes under the Ministry of Presidency, as we all know, but is being reverted back to an independent ministry, which will be the Ministry of Public Service. And under that, it will house 3 programs on its command, and those will be policy development and administration, human resource development, and human resource management. Now, I've been here about 2.5 weeks now, and we are a government in transition. What I've observed in the last 2 weeks is basically that the ministry has been running on very low human resource skills. What I've also noticed is that, for example, processing time prevents the efficiency and expediency within which things can be done in the public service. Those were my first observations, and those were the things that I believe that I need to change immediately. The Public Service Ministry is committed under my command to fostering a professional public service instilled with and committed to culture of excellence by driving change and innovation, facilitating continuous professional development, implementing administrative reforms, creating conditions for conducive work environments, promoting and maintaining ethics and accountability in the functioning of government agencies delivering service to the public. So that is my opening paragraph as to what I see the next 5 years, as to what I see myself doing within the next 5 years to improve the public service.
All right, thank you very much, Minister. So what Minister mainly intend to do is to, and what she did is to give you those brief comments, and of course, the questions first on what she would have said. And I think time may permit us, Minister, to take a few questions outside of what she would have mentioned. So we're now opening the floor for questions. Remember, you're required to unmute your mic, state your name, the media house you're representing, and before going ahead with your questions.
Hi, good day.
Good day.
This is Sandika Percival from Stabrook News.
Go ahead, Sandika.
Hi. One of the policies that the former administration followed was basically an attempt to regularize the public service, to move several contract workers to the fixed establishment. Could you give us an update as to how that particular policy was implemented? How many workers within the public service remain on contract, and how many have been moved to the fixed establishment?
Well, currently we have quite a bit of persons who are within the ministry. We have about 111 employees, 112 employees. Out of those, we have 43 who are contracted employees. Some of those would have been listed to a transition onto the pensionable establishment. With regards to any transitioning of any employees at the moment from contract to pensionable establishment, we are currently looking into that, and we haven't made a decision as yet in relation to those persons. Go ahead.
The 112 you've mentioned is within your ministry. But
Yes.
as you noted, you'll be looking at the public service across.
In
So
general.
any idea as to what's happening across the public service?
Well, across the public service at the moment, the ministries would have sent their lists of persons who they wish to transition from contract to pensionable. But might I say that the PSC at the moment is not constituted. So we're also looking in, there are piles and piles of those. So we're looking into those lists as we see fit. And then we are going to go ahead with whether or not they will, whether or not we will send them off to PSC. That has not been done completely as yet.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Tandike. Any other questions?
Hi, good morning. This is Isanella from Newsroom.
Yes, go ahead.
Minister, you mentioned that you're committed to creating a professional public service. Can you state how do you plan to do this? What are some of the things that you have planned?
But the first thing is we will implement a code of ethics and a code of conduct. Not only will we do that, but we will also do a periodic evaluation on public servants that will tell us their level of performance in their job description. It will allow us to be able to inform them where they are lapsing. And also, of course, the code of ethics and code of conduct will allow them to interact or interface with the public in such a way that the public will walk away feeling like they've just been professionally dealt with.
Okay. Is there plans to take the some of these services into a more digital platform?
Yes. As a matter of fact, this ministry itself, in terms of their website, we are currently looking to upgrade so that some of the processes whereby you would have had an in-person coming into the ministry and dealing with the ministry can be done online, making that process a little bit more expedient and efficient. And we want to first deal with the ministry and then seek to have that across the board.
And once you have a budget, can you say what are some of your priority areas?
Priority areas, one of the crucial fundamental areas in the ministry is scholarship. So a huge amount of the budget goes towards scholarship, funding scholarship. Now, we don't have a capital expenditure, so to speak. So we are, as we go along, maybe we will. But scholarship and training is what we will be looking at in relation to our budget, where we can increase scholarships, where we can increase training programs to suit the priority needs of the public service as is necessary.
Also, I know a few persons who had scholarships with the public service and would have graduated from the University of Guyana last year. Some of those persons are still waiting on a job or waiting to get a call to get a job. Can you give
Go ahead.
Can you give us an update on that situation?
Well, as I said, I've been here 2 weeks and I am looking into placements of persons who have been granted scholarships and would have returned from those scholarships, whether it be University of Guyana, whether it be overseas. So that is something that is currently being reviewed, and that is where we're at in relation to that.
Any
Before you go, could we give a chance to some of the others to ask their questions, and we're going to come back to you once time permit. I know you've had a few questions. Let's see if there's any other question from any other media house.
Minister, good afternoon. Lenny Chabrol, Demerara Waves News Talk Radio.
Good afternoon, Mr. Parag.
Just to follow up to Tandika's question, do you plan to? What is the government's policy, or will be the government's policy as regards contract workers versus fixed establishment? And my substantive question is, what do you plan to do with the Bertram Collins College for the public service?
Chabrol, I prefer not to go in depth with that at the moment, but it's something that is definitely being examined by my government and my ministry.
Which one of the questions you're referring to?
You said you were taking up from where Ms. Tandika left off? That question.
Yes, and what the government plans to do with the Bertram College for the public service.
The Bertram College Staff College is something we're examining as well. We have not made a decision in relation to that as yet. So the public and the media will be informed if or when we do, as it relates to any of these decisions.
But do you have any preliminary thoughts on the idea of the college in itself without going into what you plan to do with it?
Yes, Mr. Chavarral, as we go down the line, we're only 2 weeks into the transition.
Any other questions from any other member of the media? Tamika? Oh, Felicia, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, you said that the processing time prevents the efficiency and speed of some of the services. Can you say, for example, what services? Can you give us some examples of?
Well, some examples would be the time that is, there is no time frame put to when allowances are granted. There is no time frame put as to when vacancies are to be filled. So those are things that I wish to place time frames on. And for example, we have the scholarship department, which has absolutely no time frame from the time an application is made to the time of an award. So I do plan to implement a time frame therein as well.
Any other questions?
Tamika Garnett, Guyana Chronicle. My question, I saw recently something on social media where a doctor spoke about applying several times to get a scholarship to study overseas for his master's, and he was denied. And he was recently, Mr. Lane reached out to him and he was told to reapply for his scholarship. Is there a similar message to other persons who may have encountered similar situations that they can now reapply for scholarships, or is it relegated to particular key areas, or can anyone who may have been denied before try again?
Certainly, but it will be on a case-by-case basis. The examination of those persons will be or the review of those persons will be on a case-by-case basis. But what I have found, Mr. Mick, and I will just say this, that the system that we have for vetting scholarships, that system is heavily flawed. It is heavily flawed. This is what I have personally observed. And that is something that I plan to review and I plan to change.
What makes it flawed?
If I may say, it is skewed to one demographic and geographic in Guyana, and that has been going on for the last 5 years. Now, we plan this government, the PPPC government, has always said it's going to be fair, it's going to be transparent to Guyanese, and that is what we plan to do.
What demographic or geographic area have you found it to be skewed towards? And could you give us a figure as to the numbers?
I will leave my answer at what I've just said.
Right. Speaking again on scholarships, it's been within the public domain that certain persons who would have been awarded scholarships have returned and, for lack of a better term, refused to work for the time frame specified within the scholarship. Has any of that been brought to your attention? And if so, could you highlight it for us?
That has not been brought to my attention, but as I said, we are going through issue by issue, so it's taking some time to get through everything, and it's just been 2 weeks. So if you have heard of that, then most certainly I will be appraised of that at some point soon.
Could you tell us perhaps how many scholarships were issued over the last 5 years or over the last year?
As of the 12th of August 2020, we have 120 students who are continuing studies overseas in 14 countries. 563 persons are continuing studies in Guyana at 10 institutions. So that's a total of 684 continuing students that we have in 2020.
The flaw that you referred to, Minister, is it the only one that you have been able to uncover as part of your assessment of the ministry so far?
No, but I will also leave it at that.
And overall, what plans do you have for improving the quality of service delivery by public servants? Because ever so often you go not only to the private sector, but the public sector agencies, and people probably don't even know the rules. They're discourteous. They're, just less than expected quality. What's your plan to remedy these so that people understand what are the rules and how they should serve the public?
606. Well, I agree that when we implement a policy, or as I stated earlier, code of ethics and a code of conduct, that allows, it must be enforced as well, so that we will have that desired result. So those are things that policies and maybe sub-policies that I will make in relation to. I beg your pardon?
I think somebody has their microphone unmuted, please. The only microphone should be on is that of Dennis's and, of course, the minister's. Japanese engineers didn't just break new ground. All right, could we have... Could the host check whose microphone is not... Go ahead now, Minister.
Mr. Chabron?
Yes, Minister, I'm with you. Your response became a bit garbled because of the disruptions in the background.
Well, I was saying, as I said earlier, we will have to implement the code of conduct and code of ethics, but not only implement it, but enforce it. So that persons, perhaps I haven't quite examined what will be the consequence of not adhering to the enforcement. But those are things that I will be looking at to improve the professionalism of the public service, so that when the public comes and interfaces with them, they will be dealt with in a courteous and polite manner.
But in terms of backing up that expectation with training, what's your plan?
Well, I'm examining training right now, and we have a few programs that with customer interfacing that I think is key in the public service. I think those training very relevant, and I will definitely support that training. But I have to also see where else, and I will consult with the head of department for the training in moving forward.
Thank you very much, Dennis. Any other questions? Before we go into other questions, could I ask? Before you go, Tandika, I just want to make the point: if you're not asking a question, I encourage you to keep your microphone muted, because, like Dennis, you outlined that you could have hardly heard what Minister was saying. So please, only the person who's asking the question, and maybe after you finish asking that question, you just mute until the Minister's response is complete. Go ahead, Tandika.
All right, thank you. Minister, you were able to detail for us the number of active scholarships, as in persons who are still at university. Could you detail for us how many persons within the last year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever space, have returned from studying and or have completed their studies and are not yet employed? As Tamika mentioned, we've heard of some who would have completed a university again and have no post. But could you give us a specific number as to how many would have completed scholarships and are not employed?
I don't have that information before me, but I can have it supplied to you.
Is there a timeline within which we can be supplied with it?
Within which? Sorry?
A timeline within which it can be provided.
Yes, within half an hour. Within half an hour of the program ending, this session ending.
All right. We look forward to it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Yes. Sorry, go ahead.
We're going to take, I see Akisha's microphone is unmuted. We'll take her, then Tamika, and then the other person. I think it's Dennis, or Dennis was trying to ask a question. So, Akisha?
Akisha Budi, DPI. Minister, with regards to assistance for scholarship students studying abroad, bearing in mind that we are in a pandemic, what additional assistance or are there any additional measures to support students abroad at this time?
In addition to giving them the stipend or providing them with the stipend as the ministry usually does, we are also providing aid in terms of food hampers. We're also allowing persons as such as, for example, Cuba. Cuba, there are different stores in which commodities are only available in some stores where US dollars are being used. We are providing other measures in place whereby they can access that through their card or so on to access from those stores via US dollars, their commodities. So they are being taken care of, and ever so often we are providing hampers for them to sustain them amidst the COVID.
All right, Tamiko, you were trying to ask a question?
Yeah, my question is another case of denied scholarship. The two young ladies at the Ministry of Legal Affairs. There was a recent story about that they were denied because Mr. Nandlal had said that there's no funds at the Ministry of Legal Affairs. Would they be able to apply for it under the Ministry of Public Service, or can anything be done for them, or is that final for them that they cannot go to be allowed to go to university for their masters?
Well, I prefer not to comment on that because the Honorable Attorney General is dealing with that at the moment. But what I do know is that continuing students who are continuing, they will be allowed to finish where they're at.
All right, I think one more person. We take one more question. There was another person who was trying to ask a question.
Yes, that's me, perhaps.
Yes, Dennis, go straight ahead.
Melissa, can you tell us, since the start of the COVID pandemic, how many students have returned from Cuba and China and have opted not to return to continue their studies?
Mr. Chevron, that is also information that I can get to you very quickly.
Okay, and even as you prepare your mind to do so, will there be any liabilities on the part of the awardees in terms of they have to repay the government, or in light of the circumstances, you will waive that?
Certainly a situation to be examined thoroughly, which I will do. So I cannot give you that answer, Mr. Chevron, at the moment.
All right, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Very much, ladies and gentlemen of the media, for joining the press conference this afternoon. Minister, thanks for being here. Of course, Minister, you have indicated earlier that you will continue these kinds of engagements ever so often. Maybe you should give that assurance to members of the press.
Definitely. Members of the media, I do appreciate you being here today and in engaging with you. And I do look forward in the future to engaging with you even further to update you on the ministry's policies and the way forward with the public, in progressing with the public service. So I do urge you to stay safe during this COVID pandemic. I know this is an unprecedented time for us and the public at large to stay safe and adhere to protocols by the Ministry of Health.
All right, thank you very much, Minister. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen of the media.